All right, guys. So we got the $1,000,000 question. Are we in a bear market? You check X, YouTube, and a bunch of other, social media apps. You hear nothing about crypto. Check Google searches. Crypto, Bitcoin are at all-time lows. Discords, Telegrams, not a peep. Guys, this is super, super, super bullish in my opinion, guys. Look, we have been talking about for weeks and weeks and weeks for you guys to watch the EMA ribbon bands. I've said whenever crypto dips below this level here, guys, it's time to possibly de-risk. Now we are fully below the EMA ribbon line that we talked about. Now we're expecting a weekly close like we talked about through charts and data that is confirming that we are going into a bear market. Now here's where I could be wrong and everybody else could be wrong as well. What if in fact, guys, this is not like a traditional 4-year cycle? And I mean this in the way like, look, what if things don't play out like they've always played out? I know a lot of the legacy YouTube channels, they think they got it figured out. And maybe I would even fall in that same camp as well, guys. But look, I had to kind of share some stuff with you guys. We looked through, a few other different charts, and we went through previous cycles and looked at the ROI returns on Bitcoin and some of these other altcoins. And there's certain years that I think are looking a little similar to where we are right now. And look, with, the possible rate cuts and the end of quantitative tightening, guys, look, I still think that there may be a saving grace for this markets. Look, I'm not saying we're going to go to all-time highs, but I still think there may be somewhat of a little bit more juice to get us back up close to all-time highs. Maybe you guys can de-risk, or maybe we have one final push up and then we go into a bear market. But I think the markets have one last leg in them. And I know everybody's saying that, guys, and I know everybody's tired, but just give me you guys a little bit of your time of attention. We'll go through some charts and some data. We'll cover a few coins. And then with that, we'll leave you be. And we'll just try to do some maybe weekly updates, guys. I don't want to be out here just telling you guys a bunch of stuff that you guys already know. We've had a pretty impactful week. This week, we've had rumors of Michael Saylor selling, which has been debunked. We've had ETF listings of XRP, and even some that are pending with, a lot of these other bigger coins like Say, Sui, and such. So let's cover a few of these guys. Give me just a second, and we will hop on over real quick. So with the CME watch tool, guys, we're currently under 50% of getting rate cuts this year, guys. Look, I think we all know the government being shut down. We have not had the information, the data that the Fed needs to do his job, which is to cut rates. Now, look, we can argue back and forth. This guy sucks or whatever. We can be on the Trump camp or we can be on this camp. But at the end of the day, guys, look, the dude doesn't have the data he needs to do his job. And it would be kind of just blindly cutting without having the data. So, look, we did get some information that coffee, meat, and a few other items would be not tariffed. So this may be able to come in beneficial for, hopefully this data. We'll probably need to wait. I know in a few weeks we'll have a couple of months worth of data. I'm not sure if this is going to swing, the decisions, but there are a few Fed governors that have stepped up and do want to pause on this rate decision. Now, if we do get a pause, guys, I can pretty much 100% guarantee that the markets would react negatively. Just remember, guys, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy wearing a Spurs shirt and a plebs hat. Your boy's a pleb, so I don't know much. All I know is that, look, we have to go off of what we got in front of us. And right now the data says that we are under 50% of rate cuts. We did talk about the ROIs on Bitcoin. Right now, look, we are a red October, red November. Even though we're halfway through the month, look, I think we can kind of probably seal the deal that this may be a red November. But if we do make our way back over here to 2018, we had a red August, red September, red October, red November, and red December. Now, let's see if we can kind of full back right here. 2021 and 2022, these were red Novembers and Decembers, but followed behind with green January, February, and March. And the same thing, let's see, we went back to 2018. We had a red January, but then we had 4 months of green, 5 months of green. And then even over here, We've had 4 months of green. So look, if we do finish out this December with a red December, maybe we can count on having a green January, February, March, April, maybe even a May. Or maybe we'll have a red December, and such. Look, it's not going to be red all the way through, guys. Look, at the end of the day, even in a bear market, guys, you're going to have relief rallies. There's going to be points to where, you're going to have coins like Caspa. If you guys were in the bear market from last cycle, Caspa was a #1 performer. It did a 700x. And, a few other coins like that. Even look at ZEC, Zcash. Zcash was a coin that a lot of people slept on, even myself. And it ended up doing a 40x just in a couple weeks. So definitely, this is, something that we can still be optimistic in crypto. We still have a lot of things to look forward to. I'm not in this camp with we're going to get stimmy checks, but I do think that once we get, a potential, liquidity injection, there's people like Kevin that have said that, the Fed is hinting at emergency rate cuts that would also be hopefully adding liquidity into the markets, would hopefully give us that boost that we need, guys, to see if we can get turbocharged. But I want to show you guys a quick thing that Tom Lee said over the last week, talking about this little drop. So let's make sure our sound is good real quick. We don't want to be looking dumb in here.
Fundstrat's head of research, a CNBC contributor. He, of course, also the chairman of BitMine. So it's good to have you. Ether's down 8.5% this week. Bitcoin's down 8%. BitMine is down 20%. What's happening here?
Scott, I think we're still seeing the repercussions of that April 10th crypto deleveraging event. It was the biggest deleveraging event ever. And there are still, I think, some market makers that have some balance sheet issues that are trying to raise capital. So I think that this is leading to a market that is kind of raised. Every time we get a bit of a rally, there's some capital trying to be raised. And I think that's what's suppressing crypto for now. That's, of course, going to end soon, but I think that's led to why crypto has underperformed equities since October 10th.
Can crypto treasuries, like yours, for example, can they trade as well or in tandem with a cryptocurrency itself, or does one have to trade at the expense of the other? If I'm going to see money flow into Bitcoin or crypto treasuries, wouldn't it then come out of the actual pure play coin itself?
Not exactly, Scott. For instance, when BitMine has shareholders and institutional capital comes in, and JP Morgan, Invesco, BlackRock are buying big stakes, then that capital is then used to buy Ethereum. So it's actually going back into the ecosystem, but then it's going into a vehicle like BitMine that's actually a permanent holder. BitMine owns 3.5 million Ethereum, more than 2.9% of the supply, but now that is not going to be subject to liquidations because there's no leverage used to hold that Ethereum. And then at some point, that 3.6 million or 3.5 million Ethereum is going to be staked and then generate nearly $400 million in net income. Well, that can create returns for shareholders. So in a way, a crypto treasury is actually a pretty attractive equity because there's an income component, plus there's, of course, that ability to grow your Ethereum holdings per share.
But what if crypto treasuries become more favored than crypto itself? There's no negative impact for either the way that Ether or Bitcoin would trade if just more money floods towards the treasury part of this story?
Well, one, it's a conduit because, as you know, equity managers, many of
That
them,
was a good
the
question.
4,000 can't own crypto directly, so they have to get exposure to Ethereum by buying a stock like BitMine, and BitMine is the 438th largest stock in America today. It's not that different than if someone wanted to have exposure to energy. They can buy oil and trade a commodity, or they can take like oil barrels at home, or they can buy an oil-related stock, either a major or something in the supply chain. That's what crypto treasuries are, is essentially an asset class that gives you direct exposure to the crypto asset.
All right, let's pivot to the market itself. Is your confidence at all shaken in where we are and what you thought the prospects for an end-of-year run could be after what we've seen this week?
Well, it's never fun to see markets wobble and then stocks that are quite popular like AI and the quantums and nuclear come down so hard. But it is consistent with the idea that, we were up 6 months through October, so the market's overbought. We expected 2 weeks of consolidation, which is what we're getting. And then, of course, as you know, there's hawkish Fed talk, so there's a bit of a tantrum the market's having. But between now and year end, we still have really good seasonals. The earnings have been good. Sentiment has flipped negative, Scott, as you could tell. I mean, the AERO went to negative 17.5. So I'd say the risk reward is still really good for equities into year end. And yeah, I think the S&P will be over 7,000 by the end of the year. In fact, maybe over 7,000 by the end of the month.
So, guys, yes, Tom Lee can be a perma bull at times. There's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, guys, look, you can either be a perma bull or you can be a perma bear, or you can be somebody like me that's just in the middle. We go off of data and we make moves based on what the trends are. So right now, guys, through history and what history tells us that right now is the best time to buy crypto, not financial advice, of course, is when we are in extreme fear. Right now, we're at 18. We're in extreme fear. Yesterday we were at 16. So look, through history, if we go back right here, back in March, guys, this was the best time to buy crypto. Are you seeing this, guys? Are you watching me? Are you following me? While you guys are touching grass, playing Call of Duty, doing all these other things, guys, you should be tapping in, watching the videos. Look, this was historically the best time to buy. From there, look, we end up moving back up. So am I convinced that the cycle is completely over with? No. Now, look, I have said that we can go in and we will go into a bear market if we go below the ribbon band. We're going to close below it. But it doesn't mean that we have to go through a 1 full year bear market. Look, a bear market can last anywhere between 2 to 3 months, in crypto. Look, we did it back here, back in March. We were in this zone for, 3 or 4 months. We ended up breaking out of it. Those were the best times to scoop up. So, like I said, we have to go off of what the data is showing us. And, look, through data and through history, that was the best time to buy. Some few things that have been happening over the week. Michael Burry, the guy from The Big Short, his hedge fund ended up going belly up. There's a lot of things that are happening around, around us, that are a little concerning. But like I said, this is a gambler's market, whether you like it or not. It's good to be in the right altcoins. If you guys are buying, PopCat, Ponky, and a bunch of other BS meme coins, yeah, I would be sweating. But at the end of the day, we try to make sure we put 80% in good layer ones, Bitcoin, of course, as well. And the rest, we do take some risk. There's going to be some risky plays out there, guys. But look, if you guys are in ETF altcoins, which we've always talked about, the high probability chance of these altcoins returning back, to local highs, in my opinion, are at a great opportunity and a great probability of making returns back. But, like I said, there's a lot of few other things. Like I said, I've talked about this with CoinGlass. There's a lot of other indicators like the MVRV score, Pi cycle top indicators that have not topped out yet. Now, look, we can argue that, ETFs have disrupted this data a little bit to maybe invalidate these models, that maybe they might be useless. But I actually think that might even be bullish too, that if all models and everything TA is pretty much out the window, then that still gives me the hope and the optimistic, mindset that we can still go up and we can invalidate this cycle and continue on to the upside. Now, am I saying that we're going to have an extended cycle? No, but I do believe that, guys, we will get another leg up. Bitcoin will make another new all-time high. Would it be this year? I don't think so. But I do think with the Clarity Bill and a few other things, guys, that this will be the lighter fluid that we need to hopefully get back up to, maybe new highs. I'm not saying all-time highs, but maybe local highs, and we can de-risk. So, the things that I'm buying right now, guys, is the same plan. We're still buying ETF altcoins. There's a few stocks that I'm actually interested in. A Circle stock, which I believe was at $85 or $84 at the last market bell. Guys, that's a steal. Look, the writing's on the wall here. If you guys can't understand and if you guys can't figure it out, then I don't know what to tell you. Like I said, there are generational buys right now, and it's really baffling and kind of somewhat irritating in a way that people are more quiet now and they're giving up when their altcoins that they were bullish on at local highs. I mean, guys, I had a lot of people like happy to buy XRP at $3, happy to buy AVAX at 28, $30, but they will not buy at 15. They're scared of losing 20%, but they're down 70%. Can you make that make sense? Look, nobody here on YouTube, whatever YouTuber you're watching, cannot tell you if the cycle's over with, my guy or my gal. But at the end of the day, there has to be a point to where you say, hey, look, it's now or never. You know, I like to say this little motto, TRAP, take risk and prosper. Because at the end of the day, guys, if you don't take any risk and if you guys don't want to succeed in this market, then just, hey, sell your bags, exit, and you know, best of luck to you. But for me, I know that there's gonna be something. I don't know if it's gonna be a full-fledged alt season, but I know that the markets will come back. They always come back. Now, am I saying that there's gonna be, you know, smooth sailing all the way through? No, of course not. There will be bad days. But at the end of the day, we're equipped with so many other tools like CoinMarketCap. There's things like CoinGlass. There's really helpful discords like ours and KGU that are, you know, people that, you know, that know how to read charts, that are constantly every day helping you guys navigate through this very treacherous game of crypto, but you don't have to do it alone. So have I gave up on the cycle? Absolutely not. Am I patiently waiting? Of course. We're making some really good buys. I want to see how this weekly close happens, guys. We'll likely go live tomorrow. I just wanted to make a video to let you guys know that I'm still here. I just figured that, you know what, look, we let everybody touch some grass. You know, we've had some pretty big things going on in other markets like Pokemon and other stuff like that. And hey, look, plebs, we make money anywhere we can make it. There's a bull market somewhere. We're going to find it. So with that being said, guys, you stay blessed. Remember, tap in, leave some love in the Discord, leave some love in the chats. You guys know what it is. We'll holler at you later. Plebs, to the moon, baby. We're not done.